Know that seeking integrity. Hi, Tammy.
Hey, Dr. Rob.
How you doing? I heard your puppy. You had a puppy who needed a little bit of
Some
surgery.
elbow surgery. We're doing okay. Yeah, it's a 2-year-old puppy. So it's a 2-year-old full grown golden retriever rescue puppy who had double elbow dysplasia. So we have been
Mm,
doing the taking care of a puppy that thinks she should still be able to jump up on the everything.
right.
So,
Did you? I didn't know that dogs had elbows. Like that was a complete surprise
well,
to me. No,
instead
they
of
are
hip
called
dysplasia,
elbows.
yeah, yeah,
They
yeah,
are. I
yeah,
didn't know
and
that.
yeah, she's wearing a darling little outfit to keep her from, licking her
Did you get one of those
incisions.
colors that kind of looks like an
No, no,
airplane
no, 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 no,
thing?
no. She had the cone. No, she has I'll send you a picture. It's a little shirt with long sleeves in
Uh-huh.
pink. She's adorable. So, but it's like wearing a t-shirt instead, but it's got sleeves on it. So, yeah, because the
Okay.
cones and collars, like she would still be able to get to her elbow. So
Um,
yeah, no, yeah, and the cone was horrible. So thank you, Amazon. They delivered the shirt the next day. We are okay. So
and pink was
so
very important, I think, from what I'm hearing.
I would have taken any color, quite frankly, but the pink was
Uh-huh.
adorable. But
But she wanted pink. Okay.
I wanted a shirt on her because the cone was not working. So yeah, it was really
Got it.
bad. Yeah. Yeah. So enough about us. I'll send you a picture though, because it's really cute. Um, okay, Dr. Rob, the first question is actually a two-parter. Betrayed partner to a sex love porn addict, unmarried, no kids, have been together 4 years. D-Day was 10 months ago. Initially, the plan was reconciliation, but 2 weeks before disclosure, he revealed he'd never been sober and had been lying to me nightly during check-ins. He went to an intensive, not ours, relapsed at 92 days with masturbation. Still no disclosure for me. Question. I am hurt and I feel like I've given up 10 months of my life. We're living as roommates. He's been doing his work and is desperate for connection. I'm not in the same place. We've been living as roommates since January, hardly even so much as a hug. I feel I'm feeling emotionally checked out and exhausted. I'm getting good support, but I'm wondering, when is enough enough? I'm not sure I even care about disclosure at this point. That's pretty telling, isn't it?
Well, Tammy, I really want you to speak to the self-care part because I'm getting support. And we don't know what kind of support, but I think for everyone else who's listening, it'd be really good if you wouldn't mind saying what that is. I think it'd be really helpful.
Yeah, I hear that you're getting support and that you're emotionally checked out and exhausted. So it feels like you may need more self-care
Hmm.
and support because I hear like I hear the indifference, like I don't even know if I care anymore. And Dr. Rob and I have talked about that on other ones too, the indifference. But I'm going to stick with, as we were talking, the self-care. Like if you are really doing your self-care I mean, this is still early. We talk about, recovery is a 2 to 5 year journey, and you got news, that he was never, doing what he was supposed to be doing and all that. I also hear you say he's doing good now. Well, what does that mean and what does that look like? And, if it's still been a really short time, you're still really on the, early part of the curve. So I would, you have good support. What does that look like? What is your self-care on a daily basis? What are you doing to take care of yourself and pay attention to yourself so that his recovery plan is, kind of sink or swim? You're either going to figure it out and do it or not, and I will put it, we did a whole series on should I stay or go. And, one of them was, I mean, I think it's a good gauge of like, where are you in this process and what are you willing to do? You don't have 30 years together and kids and grandkids and all of that. So I hear you here saying I've wasted 10 months. I, I, I'm, I know I'm a lot older than you. And you know what? Have we wasted, or what are we learning that we would take forward and not necessarily into a new relationship? This may work out. I'm not, I don't think, anything that has happened is wasted if I choose not to waste it. So I'm saying that because it feels like you're being harsh on yourself. I wasted all this time, almost the like, what's wrong with me that I wasted this time? And I would invite
Hmm.
you to reframe that of like, you were bamboozled. That's an old word. But you had like he's doing a check-in with you and lying, I hate that for him and for you, but you were showing up for yourself and for the relationship, and you're hopeful you supported him through all of this, and here he is. So, but the self care and support, I would really like you to look at. We have so many resources that we talk about,
That's
but
maybe
to
some
yeah,
groups that.
yeah, because like
Mhm.
even the like we have a new somatic experience betrayed partner work group starting in July.
Mm.
I think I'll double check that. I'll put the link in. But Linda Frankie is doing that group. There's a separate one for the guys, but that could be really useful, as one way of, the attachment wounds. I don't know when the next one of those is. I'll look at that too. But there's been some fractures, and not just focusing on the trauma that has happened, but what are you really doing for self-care? Like, do you call a girlfriend and go out for coffee or lunch and have no conversation about him and his lack of integrity and all of those things? Can you just decompress and take care of yourself, find joy, happiness? Yeah, I have partners. I was just talking to someone, like that wanted to take up pottery. I don't think that was what it was, but it was like a hobby. Like, do it. Like you're living in a roommate situation. It may stay that way. You may find a path back, but like, what are you? Instead of giving up another 10 months, as you're like, what are you going to do to make sure that you're doing things that will enhance your world, regardless of what he does or doesn't do? So, I'm going to go pull some resources while Dr. Rob talks about the other part.
Well, and thanks, Tammy, because there can always another piece of self care, whatever that is. And to me, just like the addicts, like anyone, when I am struggling, it's really good to have people who are struggling the same way. And I can have someone say, "I'm sorry that's happening, or it must be difficult for you," but someone who can say, "I went through that too." Or I'm going through that too. It's just this immediate bond. And not just to say with the addicts, one of the things I really enjoy about the work is we have men who come in because we're a men's program. We have men who come in who are CEOs and lawyers and whatever that is at a high level. And we other guys who are, I don't know, who are, what would be a different kind of, who have a very different kind of experience, who are living a very different life. Maybe they're a carpenter, or maybe and perhaps in their daily life they would never run into each other just because they're in different places, but boy, in that room they're all the same. And so I would encourage you to consider that whatever the circumstances, it's really good to look across one of those rooms, one of those support groups that Tammy's putting on there, and say, oh right, and I'm assuming you're she's another attractive, smart, whatever that is, and it happened to her too. Because so that idea that, oh, it's just me. And I want to agree with you, Tammy, the idea that I should have known better is just ridiculous. Because and with due respect, when we love someone, we're the last ones who would want to think that they have done something wrong. We're the neighbors will say, how could they not know? Well, why would we want to know? Why would we want to see the bad in people we love? So I think it's expected that you would not know. And again, I think that giving yourself a hard time for something that seems normal and healthy, when I would just be kinder to yourself. So I wanted to answer the question. Sorry, I left. No, I got it. I got this, Tammy. I
It's an
wanted to.
answered.
No, no,
Yeah.
no. Oh, okay. No, I'm trying to. I was talking out loud without looking. So you're asking a very difficult question. One is enough, and it's difficult because I can't answer that for you. No one can answer that for you. The best group in the world of therapists cannot answer that for you. I don't know what that means to you. When I hear, I'm not sure I care, and I've said this 1,000 times, but when you're fighting and you're furious, you're still in it, you're still loving, whether you're still hanging in there. And when you're loving, it's great. When you're hating, it's great. There's always a future. But when someone says, I'm not sure I care anymore, and when it's indifference, then there's a lack of love. And I don't know whether that indifference is I'm pulling away and keeping myself safe and keeping my feelings behind here, but actually there is a lot going on. Or more, as I move further and further away from the situation, I realize that I don't want to commit any further or more of my time. That's just something else too. What was it, 10 months, blah blah blah. He was answer. I feel like I've given up 10 months of my life. Um, do you want to give up 11? Do you want to give up 12? I think as Tammy said, I don't know that everything brings an opportunity. I'd like to think that, but there's a lot for you to discover about yourself during this time. And well, we all hate grief, but I'll tell you what, grief has taught me so much. And I didn't know that I loved so much until I was in pain so much. I'm not saying be grateful for the circumstances, but God love you're alive, and you were feeling and you were reaching out. So anyway, about the indifference part. So I did want to repeat something that Tammy said. I've done this work for 30 years, and I have treated endless amounts of couples, often, when they're in and around residential treatment, or they come to my office when I was practicing. And and so I was going to say, and many of the couples have been together for 25 years, 30 years. They have kids, they have family, they have church, they have house, they have grandchildren, whatever it is. I mean, they have this huge history together. And so if they walk away from each other, they're not just walking away from each other, they're walking from a shared history that no one else. My husband, he met my mom. He spent time with her. She's not around anymore. I don't know that many people actually met my mom. There is a shared history there after 25 years of being together. But at 4 years, I don't know how old you are, what that means, but at 4 years, you can still get out. You're not married, you don't have children. And I think it's perfectly respectful to say, you know what, this is more than I want to handle. And by the way, it isn't going away. The lying can be worked on. The actual behavior can be worked on. But what is not going to go away is your lack of trust. You will always have that. There's no way to get around that. Whenever he goes out the door, whatever, you'll think, oh, I wonder if he's doing it again, or comes in 10 minutes late. You're going to have to live with that. And you're also living with we're challenged people and challenging people. And I think if you're sitting back and you say, okay, I don't know if I want to commit my life to such a challenging set of circumstances. And the other thing I would say is, I don't think it's your responsibility how that leaves him feeling. He did what he did. And as one of my great trainers said, behavior has consequences. Behavior has consequences. And he can be sorry, and he can feel badly, and he can try to redeem it and change it and all of that. But the consequences of his behavior may be that you're not sure you want to stay, or you don't. Tammy, we have a wonderful podcast, and also I think a webinar on or a work group webinar on therapeutic separation. And I love the idea that what did you say? We've been living as roommates. I think that's, for those of you who are looking for an in-house separation, I always wonder what that was. And that is what it was. When I think of a college roommate or roommate I had, we didn't have dinner together every night. We certainly didn't get in bed together. It was it was a very clear line what that relationship was. And I think, what it means to you to have a separation. So I just want to say, the rest of you, some people say we're separated, but you're sleeping together. Some people say we're separated, but you're talking to each other all day long and then Zooming. And, so what is separation? What is separation? Or things are going well, we're really getting closer. But if they're not going well, we're standing back. One of the things important to me about a separation, and we'll go on and on, is that it's a constant. It's no matter what is going on, we have set this. In the good times, we're going to be separate. In the bad time, we're going to be separate, because we need to see who we are together through all of that. So, but I have to tell you, you are allowed to do whatever makes you happy. You are allowed to say, I don't want to do this anymore. No one but you is going to be able to find that out. But what I hear grief about is that I don't want to say this. When you say I lost 10 months, that sounds as much grieving as, in fact, I didn't say anything about here, but I miss him. I love him. I wish he hadn't done this. He's destroyed my life. That's really being is he's destroyed me. I can't believe this. No, what kind of man? When I hear I'm not really sure, I think that's very telling. So we don't know you. We can't tell you what to do or not do. But when I see this, I see passion about your own unhappiness and what the time you've taken to go through this. I don't see a lot of hope either. I don't see a lot. I really think this, or you've been let down a number of times. And by the way, folks, when you do disclosure, if it's done right, you're doing with a therapist. We believe that both partners, that there shouldn't be any more secrets. So if you and I are staying together, you should know everything that's happened. We're starting on an even playing field. We're going from the start. So he started to do that, and then you found out he was lying, and then he revealed, this is just crazy making. So I don't know what his intention was, but I have a feeling it was more to keep you around than to work on himself. Yeah. So that's a long answer too, but and I'm sorry. I'm sorry that you aren't left with what you'd hope to have. Whatever you have going forward, it's not going to be what you'd hope. It's just not going to be what you'd hope to have. The question is, do you want to take on what's going to become? And only you can answer that. Do we still have that group, Tammy, about am I in, am I out? I'm not really sure. Is that group?
Yes, we
I know you
do.
put it in
Moving on
the
alone. No,
right,
I did not, but I will. But as
and
you're
they're
talking, I'm
free,
like, oh, and then there's this, and then there's
and
that.
those are
Yeah.
free
So,
groups, by the
so
way.
yeah, like we have a number of drop-in groups, but the one he's specifically talking about is moving on alone. It's on Thursday. Susan Anderson hosts that for betrayed partners, and it is for partners who have been left, or have one foot out the door. So there isn't the focus on how do we fix the relationship? How do we move towards each other and all that? That might be something worth looking at for support for you. Um, the other thing I wanted, like, because you said, not, hardly even so much as a hug. And I'm like,
Mm,
Dr. Rob talks about like not sleeping together and things, but like when I'm working with partners, I'm talking about like, even if he wants to hug you, like the boundary could be, if you want to give me a hug, ask. And I have the permission to say no. It's your body, your space. That is one thing that you can, have, have control over, so to speak. But like you get to say, you can give permission. So like I'm curious, and we all want touch, and I've got golden retrievers, I'm constantly petting them, but it's one of those things where like I get that, so how do you take care of yourself in the way where you're getting, and I mean, like this stuff works, where you're doing the tapping, I mean, there's so many things that you can do that will help you regulate, and not be looking for him who's untrustworthy, to fill that need. He hasn't done a great job of filling any of that. So it will probably always feel like a deficit, if you're looking for him, for things that he's unable at this point, at least, to bring to the table.
I have two more quick things because I'm never
Mhm.
done. Nothing, nowhere in here do I see but I've always loved him, or I still love him, or I'm really stuck loving him in this situation. I don't really hear anything about your feelings toward him except the disappointment that you're experiencing. And I think that's very telling because so many of the spouses, like, we have something called ambivalent love, which I love him, I hate him, I love him, I hate him. And I don't hear that. I just hear a lot of pain about where this has cost you. The other thing, and I have to put a plug for it, is we have a really good treatment program. And the reason that I say this now is because, Tammy, I was on the virtual step down today, and tomorrow I'm doing alumni groups. And so one of the things that I really value about what work we do is the guys stay tied in. And so I talk to guys we had a guy in the group this morning who'd been there 3 years. He dropped in every week, he talked to the guys, he stayed connected. And so good residential treatment creates a program where the door is always open and those groups are free. So, and well, certainly the alumni groups are free and alumni retreats and all that kind of stuff. So it's very important to me, those of you who are thinking about someone going to treatment, just to say to yourselves, well, I know the real struggle is after they'll learn a lot of stuff, but listen, I have no magic wands and the rubber hits the road when they go home. So, and in fact, we know in our field that one of the times in drugs and alcohol where someone is most likely to relapse is when they get home. So what we've tried to do, I think is essential, is to keep some kind of through line from the time they leave treatment for as long as they want to be involved. So in any case, yeah, my heart is broken for you. And we should keep moving.
So the next one, Dr. Rob, is I'm the betrayed partner. Discovery was 2 years ago, and that's when my partner began recovery. He has a CSAT and a sponsor and attends numerous 12 step groups 1.5 years into recovery. I discovered he was at the very least, fantasizing, masturbating, and edging on a weekly basis for about a year of his recovery. He lied to his CSAT about it until I discovered it. We recently experienced a temporary, unofficial out of the house separation. Within a week's time, he was doing bottom line behaviors at the least, fantasizing and masturbating, including while angry at me. I know this because he told me after I questioned his sobriety. We need to live together because of finances and a desire to do so. And that's why the out of house separation is very temporary. What do you suggest he and I need to do and have in place before he re enters our home, both individually and together, given his recent lack of sobriety and me not knowing if there's more to it?
Well, I just want to say that I think it's wonderful that you're really thinking about this. that you're not just, he's now moving back in and we'll do our best. And you're really thinking about under what circumstances. This is really, there are intellectual decisions and there are emotional decisions. And the emotional is, oh, I miss and I hope. But this is a place where you only need to make an intellectual decision. And you're asking, which is under what circumstances, what decisions do I need to make? How do I think about this? And I just want to say I really value that because we miss each other. We love each other. They got to come home. I don't think that's necessarily a reason to move forward. That wasn't your question, but I just want to say I think that is the right way to be moving. Um, Tammy, one of the things that I think about is it's really important to me that a spouse is not telling, if I'm an active addict, that you as my partner is not telling me what to do, where I should do it, when I should do it, how I should do it. And one of the commitments that I would want from my partner is I want you to tell me what you're going to be doing. And I don't want to nag you. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to tell you what book to read, but I expect that that you are going to, maybe put something in the refrigerator and say, this is what I'm doing Monday and this is on Tuesday. So I, as a partner, know, oh yeah, they're online and it's Tuesday afternoon. Oh, right, they're in that meeting. So your expectation that I have made a commitment to, not to you, but to myself, that I'm going to be doing these things, I think is essential. So I wouldn't want someone back before I understand what their plan was. Because so as far as it's sort of related, because I think he has to think about a plan and what's going to work and what he isn't. And you have to think about whether it's acceptable to you or whether it's not. I also, what is Tammy? Oh, by the way, we experienced a temporary an unofficial separation. Sorry, I'm trying to read. Don't. We recently
Unofficial
experienced a
out of the
temporary
house separation.
separation. So within a week's time, he was doing bottom line behaviors. I'm not sure they ever stopped. I don't really hear. He lies consistently. He's not telling. And by the way, it's not unusual for people to lie to therapists. And listen, we get paid anyway. But it's so heartbreaking, especially with couples therapy, when I hear that a spouse is hopeful that, oh, maybe this and this time and this work. And, an addict is sitting there lying their teeth off, both to you and the therapist. It's such a missed opportunity. And it's money and it's time. And that is a door open that he decided to close. So I think that's really unfortunate. What else did you say? Anger. I want to say something about that. He, within a week's time, was doing at least fantasizing and masturbating, including while angry at me. So I don't know your circumstances, but one of the things that I know about relationships is you can't love and hate someone at the same time. You can't go act out and say, I love them so much, but I'm going to go see the sex worker. They're so important to me, but I'm going to go masturbate to porn for 3 hours. I have to, in my head, push you away, devalue you. So it's a great way to not feel bad about what I'm doing if I'm angry at you. And the number one thing, in case you addicts aren't listening, the number one thing that we act out over is entitlement. I deserve, I should have, after all I'm doing and they don't speak to me right. And why don't I have that money? And boy, I don't get that appreciation that I need. And so, if I feel entitled, I'm going to be very angry at you because you're not giving me what I want. And that's like a platform to see I'm angry at them because they're not doing what I need to be. And I deserve to go act out. So to me, it's not, oh my God, he's acting out when he's angry at me. Like, how could he do that? To me, it makes perfect sense because it's much easier to act out when I'm angry at you. But on the other side, it's like, well, I thought we were working on this. Why are you not treating me with respect? And why aren't you committed to this? So I'm not sure I actually am answering all the questions. I'm giving insight. Tammy, so I'm going to turn to you with some of the actual language, which is what do you suggest he and I need to have in place? I said one thing, which is I want to see his plan for what he's doing and the responsibility that he's taking. And I will want to see him come up with it, and I want to see it managed and respected. Tammy, what about her? And I assume this is a woman I don't know, but what does she need to do to before he comes back into the home? Yeah.
Healthy boundaries, and I'm throwing all kinds of stuff in the chat. So first of all, I put in a sex addiction 101 or porn addiction 101. If all of the acting out has been online, then those are work groups. Those are psychoeducation. They are not in place of therapy. Lots of therapists recommend them for their clients because they really do help. But I don't hear that he has a solid 3-circle plan, because guess what? He knew he was in his middle circle and he slid right on down to bottom line behavior. So this person does not sound to me like he's got a solid foundation, of recovery yet. and
Mm.
hasn't taken ownership. If I'm mad at you, guess what? I'm blame shifting, and gaslighting you. I did put or for an earlier question, I put demystifying gaslighting, in, we did a webinar, we do webinars and all this stuff. And so, and you may want to look at the therapeutic separation webinar. There are workbooks, and it may be that you go, we're going to live together, but we're going to be roommates because you have not earned my trust. The Healthy Boundaries work group for you, that one's coming up on June 9th. So there's opportunities for work groups. But yeah, I would absolutely encourage you to have have a plan and an agreement in place, that, and Dr. Rob says it all the time, don't threaten something. If you do this one more time, then you're going to be out. Don't say it if you don't mean it. So if you guys are financially in a place where you guys need to live together, then how can how can you go, your recovery or lack thereof is your business. I'm going to take care of me. I will not be available to you. It may be that you go, we're sharing the kitchen, but that half of the fridge is yours and this half is mine. Not going to eat with you. I don't know. I mean, this is what you need to consider. How are we going to navigate this? And finances, health reasons. There's lots of reasons why people to stay together, even with somebody in active addiction, which is what I'm hearing. Like you can't relapse if you're not ever sober. And I hear that he's been hanging on to. Actually, we talk about it in 12 step. Holding on to old ideas, and the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely, you can't straddle the fence. You can't. You're either in active addiction or you're working towards recovery. That's it. The fence straddling doesn't work, and
And
how
recovery
painful
is
for you.
action.
Yes, it
Action.
is.
Hmm.
And I don't hear action.
Right.
Like, I mean, I do hear he's been going to a number of 12-step groups. Has he? Lots of people warm a seat. Like, how all of this time, has he completed all the 12 steps? If he's still, I've been doing some research on, I keep hearing all these people that write out first steps. That was not what I grew up with. So we did the fourth step, that was the big written out one. But the first step was, my life is unmanageable. My life is unmanageable. Okay, I'm willing to accept that, and keep moving on. If he's still writing his first step on, that kind of stuff, like, in 12 step, we talk honesty, open mindedness, willingness, how it works. Honesty, open mindedness, willingness. I'm not hearing honesty. I don't know how open-minded he is, and I sure don't hear her willingness, to change. And it compromise. And partners, I think, get mad at me because I say, he's the one that's losing the most because he doesn't get you. It's painful for partners. I get that, but here's the deal: you guys, if you take care of yourselves, regardless of what he does or doesn't do, you're going to be okay. You got an addict who's so focused on the meaningless stuff, it is so irrelevant. All of our behaviors, all of our substances, all of that stuff is irrelevant compared to, Dr. Rob just talked about, like, his husband knew his mom, like, and certain people are close to us and they have those shared connections. If you've got your head in fantasy land, like, you miss out on all of those things. So I'm sorry for him, and I'm sorry for you, and you're going to be okay. Get the help that you need to support you.
Hmm.
And like Dr. Rob said, good job for asking the questions. I did throw some more things, including what real recovery is, which also tells you what real recovery isn't. Hopefully some of those, and they're all free. So hopefully the work groups are not free, but all of the other resources that I shared are free resources. So, but yeah, the fourth through ninth step and 12 step, those are the house cleaning steps. Those are where we start to shift and move. If we're dinking around on, steps 1, 2, and 3, yeah, we're not going to make any real progress. So
I have a few more things that I want to throw in
please.
just to say it, which is, um, you said, a year into recovery, a year and a half into years into recovery, I discovered that he was doing this. He wasn't in recovery for a year and a half. I mean, if you discovered that he's doing that's not recovery. Even if it was okay, did you know about it? Was it hidden for you? Is it a secret? This isn't recovery. So what I hear is he said he was in recovery or he defined recovery for you, but this isn't someone who's recovery because you just don't find out that someone's been doing this for a year and they're in recovery. So, and recovery means they're taking an active stance toward doing whatever they can to commit to change for themselves. I'm going to say something. What else do I say? A couple of things. Everything you're hearing that Tammy's describing, for those of you who are not here, are on the website, seekingintegrity.com. By the way, I named it Seeking Integrity for a reason, which you can talk about integrity as another time. But 90% of what's on that site is free. When Tammany says work in webinars, she and others have sat for hours and hours and doing videos. They're free. There are all these groups that are free. Do we charge things for certain things? Absolutely. But all of it, excuse me, on Seeking Integrity. And I really recommend that you go there, if nothing else, to get the free work. Jumping over from the other side of that, I do consultations and I sit with couples for 2 hours. And it may well be that you guys might want to spend some time with me because I do a pretty darn good job of separating the wheat from the chaff. Is that I don't even know what chaff is, but nonetheless, I separate it. Um, and I'm a no bullshit kind of guy, and most of the addicts don't really like after they've had with those consultations. I think a lot of I'm absolutely certain that most spouses feel validated, like, oh yeah, at least someone's standing up for me. Couple of other things that you mentioned. Um, so this is something I would rarely say, but I'm going to say it to you. I'm not sure he deserves to be with a CSET. You are
Mm.
paying good money for him to go to therapy. You are paying it along with him, and he's not taking advantage of it. If you're lying to a therapist, maybe you need to go on vacation. Maybe there's something you need to do to take care of you. Maybe the lack of finances could be managed. And Tammy, I don't know if we've never talked about this, but to therapy to me is something you earn. It isn't automatic. I have problems, so I deserve a therapist. And the partners, oh, you need to go to therapy. No, maybe you need to do a lot of work before, and then you've earned your way into therapy. So, as a therapist, I might say, I got a line of people at the door who want to see me, and this is someone who's lying to me, and I don't think I want to see people who are lying to me as a therapist, a waste of my time. So I would ask you if finances are an issue, does he really deserve? Maybe you could go on vacation. Maybe you could spend time with your family. Maybe I don't know what you could do with that money, but I'll tell you what, he's not earned that. And they say in AA that what is Tammy? I'm going to get this right. More people have. You're going to say this better. So many more people have recovered with. How do you say that? About not going to therapy. So many more people have recovered without ever going to therapy than those who have. Because what you need to learn and the basics of that work are in there. Now, whoever the CSET is, please forgive me. I'm not saying that your client should leave, but I do think it's the responsibility, especially the financial issues, to spend that money wisely. And I have to say, I'm not going to lie, and I am visibly committed to change before I have earned. It's an earned. The other thing is just I want to say is I hope you're not having sex. I hope you're not sleeping together. I hope you've gotten STD tests. This whole thing about, well, it was just online, or he didn't do it with other people, or I don't know if that's true or not, but I want you spouses to take care of yourselves. And I say this over and over and over again. Go get tested. You're embarrassed of your family doctor. Go to a clinic. Go somewhere. We lie. We do all kinds of things that we don't think twice about, but they're going to affect you deeply. By the way, going to an STD test, I think, is very much a wake up call. There's nothing like having that blood drawn and having to do that and think, well, wait a minute, this is not just a conversation, and this is my health. That's a manifestation of that is your physical health, but it's really a manifestation of your emotional and mental health that you're having to take a step to take care of yourself to that degree. So anyway, there's a lot there. I do think there's a lot more to learn, and maybe he could dump the therapist and you could see this person for a while, because I'm not sure he deserves that gift. So do you want to keep moving, Tab? Or just do you
Yeah,
want
one
to?
more thing on that, because we need to live together because of finances and a
Right.
desire to do so, and I'm like just for kicks and giggles, that webinar that I posted, they had Kristen Snowden's 10 questions, like a little reality check. You've got someone, because you said he was doing this stuff for a weekly basis, in his recovery. He wasn't in recovery. Abstinence is just not doing what we're supposed to do. And real recovery takes 2 to 5 years. And so he's, if he's doing this on a weekly basis, the cycle of addiction can be, a week, a day, a month, an hour. I mean, that doesn't matter. The gap of it isn't the issue. It's that he's doing this, and the fact that he's using his anger at you as an excuse. It wasn't like I'm taking responsibility. I'm just going to go do this. I'm angry and therefore I'm justified in doing this. There's a lot
Entitlement.
for him. Oh yeah, there's a lot for him to work on. So Dr. Rob has talked about like throwing the Christmas lights on somebody. I would caution you not to plug in the Christmas lights and look at this person of like, well, he's trying so hard. I don't see that. What I'm reading is he's checking some boxes, but he's not doing the actual work that is going to help him actually have a real recovery plan and actually achieve recovery.
I think having the next three questions are
Are all
a
together.
continuation of the, yeah, yeah.
Yes, and that's why I put them all. So, how do I stop attracting avoidant men? I mean, how do I stop attracting men with avoidant personality attachment style? And then, is it because my family relationships? I tend to help, to try to help sister and father who don't give me anything back, and the relationships are one sided and not reciprocal.
So, what you've identified is there's something that you do that isn't bringing you what you want and that you want to change. And, that is really whether you're in a relationship, whether you have a good start, I think, on saying, I don't want any more of this. And avoidant personalities are people who come toward you and they move away, and they avoid the intimacy and they feel real good at the beginning, but then when you start to get a meaningful relationship, they're really not there. So I would speak to you in this situation, and because you asked for yourself. Um, to me, it's really important. I've talked about this a lot for females, but for women, is that acting on feelings is not, maybe for people like you, acting on how I feel about this person is not maybe your best choice. And I have women who've said, and I'm giving an exaggerated example, but they're sitting with their girlfriends, they're saying, oh my God, I had the best date and he's so wonderful. We had this great communication. We had so much fun. Of course, he's still doing heroin, living with his wife. But other than that, and that's someone who's riding on feelings. And I'm not going to say that you can help that. You're just maybe a feeling writer, but you don't have to do it alone. There are people who can sit back and say, so very concretely, I do think some support groups for you, and I think SLAA might be something to consider. But what I would do is I would set out very clear criteria. I have something called a red light, green light, yellow, a traffic signal plan for dating. And red and green is we get along, we're talking about the same things, really laugh a lot, and not just on one date, but over time. Yellow is, something doesn't feel right. He seems to talk about himself a lot. He doesn't show up on time. It doesn't return my phone calls. Something just doesn't feel right, and that's a warning. And then there's the reds, like still married, doing drugs, lies to me, all of that. What is important to me is for you is to not do this alone. There need to be other people, other women in your life who are your posse. And you go to them and you say, and this is what I think the support groups and the 12-step programs are for. I have this problem. I attract the wrong people. And then you sit down and say, what do you want? Well, I want someone who's this, and this. Okay. And what have you done that has led you to the wrong people? Well, I've done this, and this. Okay. So I would say to you, you know what? If you're going to go on another date, you need to call me and tell me all about him and what that's about. And then after the date, you need to call me and say, this is how it went. And then I get to tell you, I think you should have another date, or I shouldn't, or you shouldn't. Because there's someone sitting back and saying, I'm not emotionally engaged and I'm not emotionally involved. I can see what you're doing and I know what you did and it ain't a good idea. The thing is, are you willing to listen? When that person you respect and care about who knows your story says, I don't think seeing them again is a good idea, you have to say, okay. And so it's the objective ability to understand your own craziness and say, I love you, I care about you, I don't want you to hurt again, and I've heard about the problems and I don't want you to get back in there. But you have to be accountable. You have to create a set of a safety net so that if you slip down that, and let me back up and say, you may never stop attracting men who have avoidant personality styles. Maybe that's what you do. And maybe it has to do with your history. I don't know. But I wrote about this in Prodependence, I think that two people who struggle are stronger struggling together than they are apart. But there's a rule. So if you're a broken person, I'm a broken person, great, we can both be broken and work on each other. But you have to know you're broken. You have to be working on the fact that you're broken, and then I can be with you. And then because I'm not going to maybe attract anyone who's completely healthy, but the fact that they know they're not healthy and they're working on healing and working on themselves, that tells me a lot. So I would focus less on how do I stop attracting them, and is this about my past, and I don't know you. I think therapy is very important. Understanding how you got here, very interesting, but you're still going to pick the wrong guys. So to me, it's a very concrete set of steps that objectively other people can weigh in and say, I know you're feeling that way, but this is not a good idea. And I'm saying to you again, it is concrete insight. Great, came from this, came from that, and maybe it did, but you're dating now and you're dealing with your feelings now and you're making decisions now, and you have to look at your history recently and talk about what worked and what didn't work, because understanding what happened and the insight, that'll bring me peace. I'm not an awful person. I don't date these people because I'm stupid, or things happen to me and that led to me making these bad decisions. Great, that's insight, that's wonderful, you can take yourself off the hook. But learning how to, and I assume you're dating, learning how to be engaged with people who are going to support the kind of life you want, that is a behavior, that is a choice. And then, if I'm going to feel shameful, it's because I didn't do the work to make sure that I didn't end up in this situation again. So anyway, Tammy, that's my take on it. And by the way, I hate this. I would love you, right? Say, I found somebody. In fact, I hope you come back and say, you know what? I really worked on this, Dr. Rob, and I found someone to be accountable to. And we really wrote down what I want and the mistakes I've made. And I help them, or my group of people, help guide me to what was healthy. I would love to hear that. I'd love to dance at your wedding. So,
Oh, I love that.
Tammy,
I'll go.
Tammy,
I'll meet you there. So yeah.
okay, good.
So and I was thinking, and this will probably feel different. Like if you like, it might feel boring, to have somebody that
Right,
is actually showing up. It may
right.
feel really uncomfortable because like it's different than what you have experienced. And as human beings, we tend to go back to what we know, even if it isn't the best thing for us. We're familiar with it. So it could be, that it will feel different. And that could be a sign that this might actually be something, helpful. I love what Dr. Rob was talking about, having, your tribe of people, your posse of people that, can help you. I do know people, male and female, who have, let's say, edited when they're sharing with friends or somebody that knows them, they've edited what happened or what about that, because they only wanted to throw the Christmas lights on. So if you're
Can
going
you
to
explain
be,
that during
yeah,
Christmas lights? I'm not sure.
because oh, there was like hindsight is wonderful. So, oh, there were red flags and I ignored them. And I didn't tell people about that because for whatever reason, because I like this person. I wanted to see where it went. So I chose not to tell people about something, that now if I tell them about it, they are all going, well, that was a red flag, but they didn't get the chance to weigh in because the information was kept, here rather than letting it be part of the objective list of things where Dr. Rob was talking about. You tell me about the date. Well, if you only tell me part of what happened at the date, I'm not going to know. I can't make an informed decision that would help guide you. So if you want to change, and you can, people have an amazing capacity for change if they're willing to do it. And you can have I will share. I put the podcast in there, but Dr. Rob talked about, I say this one all the time. Dr. Rob and Dr. Stan Tatkin did a podcast in January of 2019. We do. In a healthy relationship, we against the world are healthier than we could be individually. In an unhealthy relationship, the opposite is true. So why would you not want to look for and do the work for yourself so that you have the opportunity to do something different that ultimately can be healthier, happier, more honest, more connected than anything you've ever experienced if you're willing to do the work. So I'm so glad you're here and asking the question, though. And I'll be there
Uh,
to invite Dr. Rob and me both. We'll come,
Hey, Tammy, in
Yeah.
your text, I sent you a link to a book called If the Buddha Dated. I think it's Dating on a Spiritual Path, Charlotte Castle. And I don't know if you know the book, Tammy. And she wrote another, Charlotte Castle, her friend is Jennifer Schneider. She wrote a book called If the Buddha Dated, and she wrote another book called If the Buddha Married. And I think that
Hmm.
if you're a spiritual person and you want to have a spiritual perspective on what it means to bring someone into your life and how you do that and the ways you do that, I think it's a really good guide. And it's not a do this or do that. It's really looking at your heart and your soul. Did you know about Dr. Castle? I don't know.
I
It's a
don't.
great book.
I've heard the name before, but
Hmm.
and I think you've mentioned that book before. I've not read the book though.
Mm.
So,
Well, you're
but
on to
yeah,
if the dead Buddha married. You've moved on.
yeah. I was gonna say yeah. Like it.
Jaded.
Well, if the Buddha had married and has been married for decades, So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next one, received text below from qualifier discovery April of 2025. I'm an S-anon addict. Is hasn't entered recovery. We do not sleep in the same room. He sounds disturbingly distorted. Help every day. So this is from
This
the
is a
addict.
text that this
From the
partner
addict.
found and is putting up for us to see. Okay.
Yeah. So the addict sent it to the partner. So, but who's not in recovery. Every day is a truly new day. That's why I stay plugged into the Brothers Bible Brief. My consistent prayer has been for God to expand my capacity to love. The capacity to love anyone else is influenced by the capacity to love yourself. Every day I start in this space. It's what propels me forward in life, keeps my eyes on the better version of myself, and I attract that energy. People show up as they are, especially at daily baseline. When we interact, I hear you speaking to the old me, the past me, the me I'm daily moving away from.
So what's the question?
He sounds disturbingly distorted, you know.
Well, what
Thoughts
way,
on
and
that?
Tammy, we don't know these people and we don't know what that means. But what do you think this person is really wanting to understand? Like, well, I'm thinking, why did he send it? Under what circumstances? What was he trying to get out of you? What did he want to prove to you?
Oh,
I
well,
have an
but
answer
I do get, yeah, yeah.
for the
The,
last question,
yeah,
but
exactly. When we interact, I hear you speaking to the old me, the past me, the me I'm daily moving away from. And I'm going like, what a convenient thing of like, oh, I'm so different now. Like, guess what? And if we were actually doing recovery, which you said he isn't, then we're taking responsibility. I can understand why you would feel that way. My past behaviors would lead you to believe that that would be true, and I'm sorry for that. I'm taking responsibility. This feels like a dodge, like, oh, I'm a new person, I'm starting at a different baseline. Like it sounds um so in addiction, we don't live in reality. This does not feel like living in reality. That's just my take, my personal take based on what you're sharing. And but here's the deal. Like like you kind of know what you've got. You've got somebody who's not in active recovery. He's wanting you to talk differently to him because he believes he's in you know, a different trajectory. What do you want? What do you want, and what are you doing to take care of yourself besides sleeping in a separate room? Okay, but how are you taking care of yourself so that this kind of whatever he's doing or not doing isn't negatively impacting you on a daily basis?
um, so I want to say something about spirituality. I remember hearing this a long time ago. And whatever your perception of God or what that is that you can be starving and you can be sitting in a closet and you can be starving and starving and starving. And there's food in the refrigerator, but you actually have to get up and leave the closet to get it. So I hear the result of something, but I'm not hearing how he got there. So if I had to read subtext, which is what's underneath this, I would say something like, I've been healed. That's what I hear. I have been healed by, and the growth I have, a relationship with God, that is, which by the way, I think is earned, is a meaningful relationship with God. But it just feels so manipulative to me. So I'll say this also as a therapist. When I work with someone, I did this the other day, and they start talking, and we're talking about an issue, a problem. And I think this came up last week, Tammy. I'm not sure. When they're talking about I have a porn problem. Oh, I don't remember what it was. I have a porn problem. And then they went on to say, but politically, porn isn't a bad thing. And there are some
Oh
people
yeah,
who
yeah,
need to,
yeah,
and porn is not a bad thing for everyone. And I thought, this is someone who's not dealing with the issue because they're moving from the personal, which is we're talking about, I'm struggling with, what are we doing about this, to it's about this and it's about that. It's kind of like a red herring, like, look over here, look at how
yeah.
spiritual I'm being, look how so what I hear is and I don't know this person or a spiritual life, but what I don't hear is anything about this is what I'm doing.
Well, I
This
think I think the next one is tied to this. They didn't look like they went together, but it said, what is going on when an addict suddenly thinks they don't need recovery and tries to deflect back to betrayed partner as responsible for the state of the relationship? I don't ask about the recovery. Live in two separate rooms. I'm not interested in reconciling and planning to put this in writing to read. The distorted denial seems grandiose narcissism. Attends a daily brother's prayer
right.
call and references it as if it now has helped him recover in 12 months. So that's what he's so called doing for recovery,
So again,
I
I
think.
hear I have been healed. I
Yeah.
have been healed, and I don't know about Tammy, but I'm never healed. That part of me is always
Mm.
there. It's a struggle every single day, and if it isn't a struggle, I'm aware that it could be. And so I don't hear I when someone says I'm cured, I'm healed, I've
Or
got this,
recovered. Yeah.
I'm recovered. I think that they don't understand the problem. This is a lifelong struggle every single day, or a commitment every day to actually do something to make sure I'm in a good place. There is no healing, and I do think that it's not hard for people to. People of faith can hide. Some addicts of faith can hide behind the religion. And that's an easy sell because you can't argue with the capacity to love is influence. And I don't mean to be sarcastic about I heard you, Tammy. It's hard not to. I want to know what the heck this person has done to you. And then has it's like he wants you to admire him and respect him and see how hard he's been working.
Talk to
And
him
by the
on a
way,
different plane.
yeah, the interact with you, you're speaking to the old me, the past me. There is no old me or past me. There's the person who hurt you deeply and destroyed your life, and there might be someone who is beginning um, to grow from that old me. But I'm still the old me. I'm sitting right here, and the idea that I am telling you how you should treat me. I am telling you, why don't you see me in the way that I want you to see me? Because I'm going to paint this picture of you for you that you're going to buy into. And I don't hear anything about. And so he's doing these groups, he's doing these workshops. I've seen him reading these books, I've seen him going to whatever it is. I don't hear any of that. I hear a sales job, and not only as a sales job, but also and admire me for it. And don't give me, I mean, it's just so perfect. I'm great. I'm doing great. I found a way to heal. Why are you nicer and kinder to me? And by the way, this is what I've done, which you can't argue with because it's about belief system. So, this is the second part. I'm not looking at reconciling and planning to put this in writing to read. Narcissism, every addict is grandiose and narcissistic by nature. I get to do what I want to do, and I'm going to do it whether it hurts them or not. Arrogance. I deserve to do this. Entitlement. These are characteristics of narcissists. Every one of us who's an addict has the potential to act in extremely narcissistic ways, but we don't have to embrace that and live in that every single day. And I don't hear, Tammy talks a lot about it's a daily routine, it's a daily commitment, it's a daily commitment to changing for that day. And I'll tell you, the inner narcissist in me is always there. I asked my 25 year marriage, and it's always there. And I have to struggle on a daily basis in relationships. Relationship is God, with God, whatever that means to you. I'm glad you have that. But what is your relationship with people, and how are you working on this? So there's something else. You don't want to reconcile. So I know we need to move on. We have a lot of stuff, but I have to ask, and this is with all due respect, why are you asking all this if you don't want to reconcile? And I really mean that, best Rob statement I can make is you're asking if you can believe him, if you believe in him. Is this what addiction really means? What does it mean that they don't need recovery? I'm not sure about that. I don't want to reconcile piece, just to say it, because if I'm so focused on, is this true? Is this not true? What does this mean? Can I believe it? Can I not believe it? And Tammy may disagree, but you're still in it. And so in fact that surprised me that one sentence is I'm not interested in reconciling, because it's surrounded by a whole bunch of stuff which talks about if he's doing this, if he's doing that, maybe this, maybe that. So I think your eye is on this relationship a lot more than you are willing to admit to yourself. And I certainly don't hear indifference, because look at it. And by the way, you wrote sorry Tammy, I'm on a tear. You wrote two notes to us that were long. They weren't too long. One was about what he said, and one is about your feeling, how you feel. That's a lot of energy put in. There's a lot of energy put into, is this right? Is it wrong? Should I do this? Should I do this? But then to say in one sentence, and I'm out. So Tammy, I don't quite understand that. I don't know if,
Well, I'm going back to because I apparently got keyed in on the you're you need to talk to the new me. And like, and I'm going like, I don't, do you need to talk to either the old him or the new him?
Right.
What would it be like for you to hold the boundary of like, yeah, I mean, I hear you, and I'm going to make the gracious assumption that you actually are not looking to reconcile and move on, and that you're just so, which we are, perplexing, so like it's not sane. Like I don't hear anything that would be recovery oriented, that would be moving forward on a path that would change anything. So, and an addict brain is an addict brain forever. It's just, are we in active addiction or active recovery? And he's telling you basically that he's, in active addiction. But yeah, I'm really curious of like, like you get this kind of a message. At some point, it's either you go, okay, I'm just going to do this because it's so bizarre. Like nobody will ever believe that this is true. So I'm just going to do this for more documentation. Or you just go, I don't need to dysregulate myself trying to spend any energy figuring out, him, and he's giving you a lot of information about what he's not willing to do unless you talk to the new him. I'm sound so
I
sarcastic, but
It's
like
so
I honestly
manipulative.
have never
Yeah.
been caught on that one before. So
I just want to add one more thing, which is we talked about therapy is earned. It isn't a given. And if you're lying to your therapist and you're manipulating the situation, then maybe your family doesn't need to be taking the money. And on some level, I think that the relationship in your spiritual life also has to be earned. It isn't just a given that I am active behavior to earn that kind of meaningful relationship. And this sounds a little like entitled. I'm talking to these people I see. So it does even in itself sound really desert. It's all about addiction. Please don't blame me. Please don't be upset with me because you see how hard I'm working. And this is what's written. And again, it's all a red herring. It's like, look over here, look over there. It's not really addressing you at all or your pain. So what's going on when an addict suddenly thinks that they don't need recovery and tries to deflect everything back to the betrayed partner as responsible for the state of relationship? That's exactly what's happening. And by the way, we can't argue with this. You don't believe, you don't have faith, that you're not blessed. You can't argue with that. I don't see you doing the work. And I don't know if I want to be here because you're not doing this day, that. You can argue with that. So I see a bunch of distraction. I'll say it that way because Tammy doesn't like those unpleasant words, so I use them. But I see a big bunch of hooey. And I'm glad. And
well,
you know
and
that
I
too, or you wouldn't be asking.
yeah, and I put the deconstructing gaslighting, like I like gaslighting all over the place. So yeah. Okay, how do you know if your sex addict partner has addressed his own entitlement? My husband's been sober for 11 months, and I don't mean to belittle that, but he still has a lot of selfish tendencies unrelated to porn or sex addiction. Where do those things get addressed? Is that a couples therapy issue?
Well, you know what I'm going to say, Tammy. I mean, this is so I say this a lot, which is, and this is really hard for partners because, and I am going to use those words, just because I stop acting out and start working on myself doesn't mean that I'm not still an asshole. Becoming a better person takes time and it takes a commitment on a whole bunch of levels. Stopping the acting out, and I know this doesn't sound true, but it really is simple. It's not easy, but there are certain things that you can do and you will change that behavior. But it doesn't mean you're going to become a different person, especially after 11 months. So, and also, I think there's a little piece of, um, um, how do I say this? What is it you want? Did you want someone who's sober, or do you want someone who, I don't know how to say this, Tammy. I'm not even sure what I'm trying to say, but yes, selfish for sure. And it's universal for addicts and it does spread out into other areas. But, and should you see change this soon? I don't know, Tammy. I really want you to dive in. It's not once an asshole, always an asshole, but
No.
someone who's deeply working on themselves one day at a time. I can be a better person. One day at a time, I can reflect on that wasn't kind, that wasn't meaningful. I guess I wanted to say one more thing about that is he reflecting on this? Does he have the ability to say, oh, that was selfish? Or, that wasn't fair to you? Or it's one thing to say, I'm really in recovery, I'm working on this or that. That's fine. And he may not stop the bad behavior for a very long time, but he's aware. Does he sit back and say, that wasn't right, or that wasn't fair, or I shouldn't have said that, or that was selfish? He doesn't have to have changed it, because that takes a very long time. But the awareness is what's really important. And if you get shunted to the side, well, yes, I'm in recovery, but that's if your desire to have a better relationship and to admire and respect this person gets pushed away, but I'm sober. I'm not sure that I want you to have someone who's taking accountability and still acts badly, maybe, but really says, I don't think that was fair. And I don't, or you say that really hurt me. I didn't mean to hurt you. Okay, I can work with that. But were you really hurt? It wasn't a big deal. That's telling. So again, I think it's about, is there an awareness that even the awareness, first the awareness of my addiction is a problem I didn't realize, how crazy is that, whatever I was doing, breaking through denial, that's the awareness of change with the behavior. But awareness of change in terms of becoming a kinder, warmer person, that's something in terms of relationships with others. I would also ask myself, is it just with me, or is this how he acts with a whole bunch of people? Is this how he is and has been? But the best guess I can give you, because it's the best answer, because I thought of it, is right, Tammy. I thought there's your narcissism and arrogance. Best answer I've ever had, because I thought of it, and there aren't any good answers for sure, because I'm the one with all the answers. I'm acting out my narcissism for you now. Is he aware on any level that his behavior is not what he would want it to be? And I think you can ask that question. It tells you a lot. And if you say, I'm hurt, I'm disappointed, how is that responded to? Because at some point you have to want to treat people better. And before you can do that, you have to realize that you're not. So, yeah, that's just all I can come up with. What are your thoughts, Tammy?
Well,
Or maybe you don't.
because no, sober 11 months. Sober 11 months. Okay. What does that mean? Like, and I get you did a little snippet, get it. But what does that mean? What is he actually doing? Because, where we learn to be different around other people who are recovering, if I'm going into meetings and I'm hearing other people shares, or I'm sharing, I mean, so a long time ago, when an old timer, I said something, I'm sure some drama queen thing. And
Tammy,
and the
I'm going to take that one.
the old timer said, when it got to be his turn, he said, yeah, I am, I used to bang my high chair, and I was like, oh, I'm banging my high chair. I want, like that entitlement. And, like he said it in such a gracious way. I knew he was talking to me directly, but also he said it in a way that I could take it in. This is decades later, and I can tell you who it was, I won't. But like, I remember that, that was a learning. I learned in 12 step how to grow up, because I didn't know how to grow up before. And so if he's really doing the recovery work, but again, the Dr. Rob, mentioned the 11 months. 11 months is, yay, you get 11-month chip, yay. And he still, like this, it takes 2 to 5 years, if we're doing the work, to have this stuff all get integrated, because we didn't get the owner's manual when we were born on how to do life on life's terms and do it well, and not use maladaptive coping mechanisms and all of that. So those things, and Dr. Rob's right, those pieces will flare up. The thing that's different is we have the opportunity to make an amends. If I've done something, and some one of my character defects is flaring up, guess what? I am quick to make amends now. I learned I need to own what I've done. But he's 11 months in of trying to live life on a whole new path. That doesn't mean you give him a pass. I just thought of another. Dr. Eddie did. I'm going to pull it, because it was understanding does not make understanding behavior is not excusing behavior. I'm actually pulling that one too. So it isn't an excuse for what he's doing, but it will give you, this isn't personal. He's doing this, and the easiest thing is to stop the acting out. Learning to live life on life's
Yeah.
terms. That's the challenge, and that's why recovery takes longer. It isn't just about, just stopping the behavior is literally the easiest part of all of this.
Do you want to? I know we're over time. Do you want to? I sent you Chelsea Brooke Cole's work. She's a
Oh
specialist
yeah,
on
yeah,
narcissism.
yeah.
And speaking of narcissism, I keep saying we're going to do podcasts, and I put her off. We're going to do podcasts,
I know.
but I really enjoy
I
her.
know, but
But
I did.
anyway,
Guess what? I did 2 webinars with her, including on hoovering. And you're going to say, what is hoovering? That's what I said to Chelsea because I read it and I was like, Chelsea, you know what hoovering is? And she said, I do. And so she came on and did a webinar with me. So it's great, to understand the narcissistic cycles,
And how
including
it affects you.
hoovering. Yeah,
So
including hoovering.
I don't know if you dropped it in there, but it's a
I
great
did.
resource for you. Tammy, it's good to see you as always. And folks, if you're
Thanks
looking for
everyone for
some of these
joining us. Keep
resources,
coming
it's
back.
seekingintegrity.com. Bye,
Yes.
folks. Thank you for your
Bye.
time, Tammy.